This is the legislative kind of recap for the week. So what we're going to talk about really quickly is these were mostly suspensions, the suspension calendar, and what that means is that we have a set of rules here in Congress, and we're suspending the rules, so we're not going to follow the rules. That's what we say when it's on the suspension calendar, and then the requirement is that 2/3 of the whole House has to vote in favor for it to pass. So you say we're not going to follow the rules, but because we're not going to follow the rules, then it's a higher standard to pass something. So we're going to talk about some votes that were on suspension. The first is the Udall Foundation Reauthorization Act. I voted no on that. The Udall Foundation exists to shut down reliable base load power. And as we're acting, as the federal government is trying to impose more requirements to use electricity, at the very same time, we're diminishing our capacity to produce and supply energy, and the Udall Foundation has been a part of that. And also the Department of the Interior, OIG, the Office of Inspector General, has found that the Udall Foundation has made improper payments and did not adhere to contract oversight's duties and improperly billed some of its partners. The Enhancing Detention of Human Trafficking Act, I voted yes on that. It requires the Department of Labor to train and educate its employees to effectively detect and assist law enforcement on human trafficking incidents. So obviously we want them doing that, and they need to know what they're doing. So that was a yes vote. The Israel Security Supplemental Appropriations Act, I will tell you, we passed as you know, Israel's at war with Gaza. They use things like Iron Dome and David Sling to stop the incoming missiles. They're depleting their resources, so they're asking for more funding, and we want to help our neighbors in Israel, especially when they're at war. In the past, we had voted for a bill that was offset, which means we found a way to pay for it. So that's my preference. This one was unpaid for, which is not my preference, but in the context of do we want Israel to survive or go away, I thought that it's more important to have our most reliable and important ally in the region continue to exist. So now that effort failed, so I'm not sure if we go back to the table, but if we do, and I hope that we do, that we find a way to pay for it, which is what we will be focused on, I think, in the weeks to come. But again, I voted yes on that. However, the measure failed. And then the impeachment of Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security. I voted yes in favor of that, as you probably have been told that it failed. Now, one of the reasons I voted yes is his refusal to comply with the law in enforcing border policies and breaching the public trust, and included in breaching the public trust is the numerous occasions that he's lied to Congress, which by extension has lied to the American people. I've literally sat on the dais and had him lie straight-faced to me in the past. And so I think he absolutely deserves the distinction of impeachment. It's why I voted yes, even though the vote failed at this time. And I think it's completely justified over a long period of time, and it's evidenced by the abject failure to secure the border and the fact that we have broken records consistently over the last 3 years of people coming across the border illegally. And then finally, the Protecting Healthcare for All Patients Act, and this is verbiage that you need to become aware of. So right now, there's a metric that's being used that says the quality adjusted life years is what's used to assign a dollar value on someone's life and if they receive health care. Now, that's not allowed currently in Medicare, but it's being allowed in other federally assisted health care programs. I find that to be immoral. I don't think the federal government and bureaucrats should be determining whether you should get care based on your quality adjusted life years. I don't think that's the role of the government. I think it's a very dangerous position to be in. So I voted for the Protecting Healthcare for All Patients Act of 2023, which would make sure that that's no longer a standard by which federally funded healthcare programs receive your tax dollars. And then I think finally, we're going to talk about some of the hearings. There was a hearing in Transportation and Infrastructure where the FAA administrator came in all kinds of questions. Obviously, they were asking questions about the 737-9 MAX aircraft made by Boeing, where what's called the door plug flew off. As you probably know, 4 bolts are supposed to hold that thing on. They weren't present apparently, and they flew off, and that's an issue that we want to discuss to find, what happened there, how the failure occurred to protect the flying public. My question for the administrator was he aware of, did he approve illegal foreign nationals living, sleeping in, and residing in our airports, which are federally funded by your tax dollars, and if that's going to happen, those airports have to apply or request permission to do that. So what we found out was, in some cases, he did grant permission. In other cases, the airports are just doing it. I will tell you from my perspective, neither one of those things is acceptable, but at least we know the answer right now and we can drill down on the problem. The other issue I think that might be of some value to you and of some interest to you is in the Foreign Affairs Committee. We had what's called a markup. We take bills that are getting we're legislating, offering bills, legislation, laws, proposed laws, and we mark them up. We literally take a pen and say, we're striking this, we're adding that. So that's why it's called a markup. 2 bills of importance. One on defunding the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, commonly known as UNRWA. It's the United Nations, it's your tax dollars. I think it's about $775 million so far over the course of this administration going to one particular group of people in Gaza. Those are the people that it goes to provide for allegedly humanitarian assistance. But unfortunately, it has provided assistance to people working with Hamas and other opponents of Israel. And so I've been a long proponent of defunding that. I don't think your tax dollars should go to that. We've been funding it since 1949. There's a whole lot of issues with it, but I voted in favor of that, and I spoke out in favor of that piece of legislation. The other one is declaring that the Houthis, the rebel organization in Yemen, is a foreign terrorist organization. President Biden delisted them from that in 2021. They are a terrorist organization. They are working against the United States' interest, and they should have never been delisted. They should always be sanctioned. We should be always working to defeat them economically so that we don't have to defeat them militarily. But the President Biden, of course, delisted them, and then, of course, we have all these attacks in the Red Sea and in the Straits there on shipping, on American shipping, on commercial shipping, on military ships in the region. And so the president listed them, but on a lower threshold. And we think they should be listed as a foreign terrorist organization. They are a proxy of Iran. And so I voted in favor of that, and I spoke on behalf of that legislation as well. So those, I think, are the legislative updates. Did I miss anything? Okay, that's it for the week, so I'll talk to you next week. God bless you. Be safe.